60 million years ago, in a world still reeling from extinction, something impossible took shape. Deep in what is now northern Colombia, beneath layers of coal and crushed rainforest, paleontologists uncovered bones so large they broke every assumption about snakes. At first glance, they seemed familiar. Big. Ancient. Reptilian. Then the measurements came in, and familiarity vanished. Because this creature was never meant to exist. Titanoboa was not just oversized. Its body pushed against the physical limits of cold-blooded life, demanding heat, food, and stability on a scale Earth could barely sustain. Its discovery did more than reveal a giant predator. It exposed a planet once stretched to its absolute biological breaking point. The monster we misimagined. Most people picture Titanoboa as an anaconda taken too far. Longer coils. Thicker muscle. A rainforest horror slithering through trees like living rope. That image spread fast after the 2009 announcement. Documentaries, museum models, dramatic reconstructions. A supersized boa, scaled up and turned loose in the swamp. Titanoboa refused that template. Its world looked like a rainforest, sounded like a rainforest, yet ran like a pressure cooker. Heat stayed high. Water stayed slow. Ground stayed soft. In that setting, snake meant mass carried by swamp buoyancy. A body this big demanded patience as a lifestyle. Ambush over chase. Weeks of digestion. Muscles kept warm by air that barely cooled even at night. Physics shaped its behavior as much as biology. Here's the twist. Titanoboa's size was only the headline. The deeper story is the planet that made that size possible. Once you see what its body required every day, heat, water, prey, stability, Titanoboa stops feeling like a monster and starts feeling like a clue from an overheated Earth. What the bones revealed. The discovery began at the Sarajan coal mine in La Guajira, northern Colombia. Fossil hunters worked through black layers formed from ancient rainforest plants compressed into coal. Then the team started pulling vertebrae so large they looked misplaced. At first glance, the obvious suspect was crocodilians, the expected giants of warm Paleocene wetlands. The shape broke that assumption. Titanoboa's vertebrae carried the snake signature, robust, repeating architecture along the spine, with a distinctive cross-section that didn't match croc bone. More fossils followed, well over 100 pieces, with finds attributed to multiple individuals. Sarajan acted like a time capsule, sudden burial preserved leaves, fish, turtles, crocodile relatives, and the bones of the largest snake ever recognized. From those vertebrae, scientists used scaling laws seen in living boas and anacondas. Mid-body vertebra size tracks body length with reliable consistency in large constrictors. The estimates settled around 12.8 to 14.3 meters, with mass often placed above a ton, climbing toward roughly 1,135 kilograms in some reconstructions. One backbone reset the upper limit of snake life, size that demanded a different planet. Vertebrae deliver the measurements. They also deliver the climate message. A cold-blooded predator lives on environmental heat, so size becomes a temperature problem as much as a genetics problem. Bigger bodies help retain warmth, yet they still need a hot baseline. Digestion, muscle output, growth rates, and daily activity all scale with temperature in ectotherms. For Titanoboa, the baseline had to stay extreme. Researchers have used it as a biological thermometer, with estimates for equatorial Colombia landing around 30 to 34 degrees Celsius on average, year-round, with minimal seasonal relief. Imagine a rainforest where nights bring humidity rather than cool air. Warm water never feels cold. Every breath feels thick. In that setting, metabolism runs fast, digestion accelerates, and large meals actually pay off. Zoom out and the timing becomes even stranger. Titanoboa lived only a few million years after the dinosaurs disappeared, during the Paleocene, when ecosystems rebuilt quickly and unevenly. Mammals remained relatively small. Reptiles dominated wetlands. Food webs stacked in ways that rewarded heavy, patient ambush predators. That is why Titanoboa feels impossible today. Modern tropics sit cooler on average. Today's anacondas press close to climate-limited ceilings. Titanoboa required a world turned several degrees hotter for millions of years. The swamp kingdom that fed it. Saragen sets the stage, and the surrounding ecosystem explains the crown. Fossils describe a dense coastal plain rainforest threaded with wide rivers, swamps, and slow, murky channels where visibility stayed low and movement stayed heavy. Giant turtles lived there, some carrying shells of astonishing size, armored bodies packed with calories, ideal targets for a predator capable of overpowering them. Crocodilian relatives shared the same waters, ranging from ambush specialists to blunt-toothed crushers adapted for hard prey. Fish fossils reveal rich, warm waterways filled with large-bodied species suited to sluggish channels. In a swamp, prey gathers at edges, and edges exist everywhere. Water rewarded mass. Buoyancy eased the strain of moving a ton of snake. Tannin-stained currents and tangled roots turn size into concealment. Time also worked in Titanoboa's favor. Large constrictors eat big, then digest slowly. In relentless heat, digestion sped up and muscles stayed ready. This was a labyrinth built for ambush, and Titanoboa was its logical apex. How Titanoboa hunted. A 40-plus foot constrictor faces a simple constraint: land punishes mass. Forest floors sap energy. Water changes the equation entirely. Picture Titanoboa half-submerged, body draped through roots and fallen logs, eyes hovering near the surface while the rest disappears into dark water. Stillness becomes camouflage. Patience becomes the strategy. When prey drifted close, fish in a channel, a turtle crossing shallows, a crocodilian gliding past, the strike would have been sudden and final. Constrictors subdue prey by rapidly tightening coils that shut down breathing and blood flow. Scaled up, that force becomes devastating. Biomechanical estimates often place Titanoboa's constriction pressure above 400 psi, enough to overwhelm large reptiles quickly. Its diet likely leaned aquatic. Large fish, turtles, and smaller crocodilians dominated the menu. Water served as hunting ground and life support, carrying its mass and regulating heat. Titanoboa fit the swamp perfectly, slow, silent, and built for overwhelming control. Why it vanished? Titanoboa rose in a hothouse world, so its disappearance begins with cooling. For ectotherms, temperature acts like a master dial. Turn it down and digestion slows, movement dulls, growth rates drop. A 1-ton snake also pays a steep daily cost. Large bodies demand large meals, and those meals demand a predator that can hunt effectively and process food quickly enough to stay ahead of its own weight. After the Paleocene, even a few degrees mattered. A cooler baseline stretches digestion times and shrinks the window of peak performance. Hunting becomes harder. Recovery takes longer. Growth loses momentum. The habitat shifted too. Wetlands evolve. Rivers change course. Forest composition drifts. Swamps become more seasonal, and the stable, warm labyrinth that supported semi-aquatic giants starts to break into a less predictable system. Mammals diversified and expanded in the background, staying active across cooler spells and reshaping pressure at the water's edge. Reptile-heavy food webs loosened as giant turtles and crocodilian forms declined. Titanoboa didn't need a catastrophe. Earth only needed to drift outside the narrow climate band that made a ton of snake workable. The terrifying answer. Titanoboa's size was never the only shock. Its existence proved that climate can lift the ceiling on life until impossible becomes real. A rainforest once ran hot enough, long enough, to support a snake around 13 to 14 meters. That places Titanoboa less as an oddity and more as evidence. The upper limits of animals move with the background conditions of the planet. It also rewrites the story people tell about the post-dinosaur world. The popular image is quiet recovery and small survivors. Saragen shows dense, competitive systems rebuilding fast, especially in the tropics, with reptiles taking center stage. So where does that leave the modern world? Folklore keeps giant river serpents alive, Amazon stories like Yakumama, endless claims, endless misidentifications of large anacondas, floating logs, and shadows in brown water. A Titanoboa-scale predator leaves an ecological footprint. It needs vast calories. It shapes prey populations. It sheds skin, leaves genetic traces, and leaves disrupted ecosystems behind. Modern climates sit cooler than the Saragen hothouse, and the fossil record holds Titanoboa in the Paleocene, then the trail ends. It ruled when everything aligned, then vanished when alignment broke by only a few degrees. So there it is. Titanoboa is gone. Not hiding in jungles. Not drifting through rivers. not waiting to be found. But the story does not end with comfort. It ends with perspective. For a brief moment, Earth ran hot enough to build a snake that should never have worked, and then cooled just enough to erase it. Titanoboa remains a reminder that dominance lasts only as long as the planet allows it.